Chapter 5. Nearly another month had passed, and Link had done little more than allowed Zelda to learn stances while holding a sword. A child's sword, perhaps, and one she wasn't learning to swing around, but it was the precursor to a real weapon, and she accepted that. He still had her rest against the wall and crouch, though this time, he would hand her the sword to add weight to her arms, and she would struggle to maintain all of her strength while Link did it without breaking a sweat. Well, that was kind of a lie. Link often would sweat, and to Zelda's absolute horror, she kinda liked it. She didn't hate waking up early, or coming down to the training yard. She didn't hate seeing Link every day, and she didn't even hate running. He was with her every step of the way now, and the mornings had become the highlight of her day. Zelda realized that Link had become her primary source of conversation. When she returned to her room, it was often to pray or to complete some sort of task, and then she would eat alone most nights, her father too busy to join. Then, she'd return to her room to train on her own, or read a book if she was particularly tired. She still absolutely hated Link when he made her run line exercises like suicides, but she felt stronger, and could now complete them without falling straight into the ground while demanding that their training session be over. Together, they often cracked jokes ranging from how Zelda seemed to be training to run a marathon, to Link's almost gawky demeanor when he got nervous. But it wasn't the worst experience anymore because it meant she got to see Link. Ugh, what was wrong with her? Her father had asked for regular updates, which she and Link gave. She held nothing back, still bitter that he wouldn't teach her the basics of swinging a sword, but her father didn't seem to mind, and actually almost appeared as if he didn't care. He'd always turn right to Link and listen to his assessment of Zelda's excellent progress with a contented smile. And every time, Zelda would pick a fight with Link about how they were still just running around rather than any real training, and Rome would always roll his eyes before leaving. The king had literally sent Zelda to be trained to fight, she countered while Link sat beside her against the wall, heaving breaths from them both after doing several more high-endurance drills.
No, that's not true.
They were currently taking a break in the grass, and as they were resting, he took a sip of water before giving a relaxed breath.
I was told to train you to defend yourself, not specifically to sword fight.
Why haven't I learned that then? We run all the time. We do stupid exercises all the time. Teach me something else.
Link watched her take a long sip of her drink before holding his hand up in front of his face, palm facing Zelda. She stared at him in confusion.
What?
Do this.
She rolled her eyes but mimicked Link's hand. He rested his against hers, and Zelda had to fight to keep herself from focusing on how warm his skin was against hers.
Okay. Push my hand back.
Link, I hurt myself once and my physicians had me do silly tests like this. You're not my physician.
I most certainly am not. Push my hand back. All your strength.
With a huff, Zelda did as instructed, proud when his hand moved all the way back to his shoulder with the force of her effort, even though she had no doubts he'd let her push his hand back. He motioned for her to raise her arms up again.
We're gonna swap. You do what I just did. Don't let me push your hand away. All your strength.
Link.
Just humor me.
So Zelda humored him. Her arm flew back immediately.
I wasn't ready.
She remained stubborn, ignoring the small ache in her shoulder.
Isn't this familiar?
He allowed Zelda to try again, and it again with just as much success. Sulking, Zelda sipped her water again with as much dignity as she could plaster onto her expression.
Fine. I can't do it. What point are you trying to make now?
That you're not as strong as a trained soldier. I can't stress enough that the Yiga assassins don't do anything else. We're here taking a break, having a conversation. We'll leave in a bit and do our tasks for the day. We'll eat and sleep. The Yiga don't. They are sycophants, who just want you dead so they can bring back their god. This is all they train for.
Plucking a blade of grass, Zelda shrugged, disheartened.
I know that. Be honest. Was I ever meant to truly be taught how to use a sword?
Link made a face, one that said she probably didn't want to hear the answer.
I'm going to give you basic lessons when you're ready, but we're not entering you in any tournaments.
I pray, I train, I go to events that I'm too tired for. Just let me have a win, Link. Let me use a sword soon.
You're doing really well. I know you don't think so, but you are.
You always say that.
Laughing, Link held out his hand to help Zelda up.
Because it's true.
Zelda liked his laugh, and she liked how often she could draw it from him now.
Should I run more laps, Master Link?
Princess Zelda and Master Link training together. I like it. Beats Sir Link any day.
Smiling, Zelda pulled her hair back, fixing it methodically with her fingers.
Oh yes, forget all those years you trained to earn your knightly title and take one I made up on the spot.
If you made it up for me, Princess, I'd gladly choose that one.
Zelda snorted, especially when she looked over at his dopey grin, but there was a sweet sincerity to his words under the surface, and it had her blushing. She had to get away from him before he could see it, so she headed to the line where they always started running from, prepared to simply move on to her next usual task. He moved to stop her.
Nope, not this time.
He pulled off one of his looser layers before standing in front of her. For an indulgent moment, Zelda watched him strip off that single top layer of his 2 shirts. He was far faster than she would have liked, but admittedly, the speed he got that shirt off was just as frustratingly attractive as if he'd teased her with slow, deliberate movements. No, he wasn't even thinking about that. There was no teasing her. Wasn't she supposed to be hiding her blush, not letting it spread to her neck and ears? She cleared her throat and kept her eyes off his muscular arms, which over the last month had become much harder to do.
Okay, Princess, you win. You're a scholar. Where are some of the more vulnerable places to hit someone?
He gestured to himself, waiting for an answer.
With a sword?
With anything really, but specifically while weaponless.
She stared at Link and her face flamed when her eyes darted decidedly between his legs. In an attempt to save herself, she waved her hand awkwardly at his groin before closing her eyes and shaking her head, never uttering a word as she increasingly turned as red as a tomato. This was going very poorly for her today. Snorting, or was he choking? Wheezing, even? Link breathed out a small laugh and nodded.
Yep, that's good. There's one.
She peeked at him, relieved to see that he had gone red too. If she was going to embarrass herself, she was glad she wasn't going down alone. With a shuddering breath, she returned her focus to Link, envisioning herself punching him for not letting her train with a weapon. Where else would she want to hit him?
Okay. Your throat.
Great. Keep going.
Zelda sighed and shifted from one foot to the other, suddenly imagining herself simply pummeling Link. It made things easier.
Eyes, nose, maybe kick your knee? If you're going sword, I'd say chest or stomach. I'd definitely stab your foot, but I guess I could stomp on it.
Good start. You want to stab me with a concerning amount of gusto. Imagine you're at a royal ball. Do you carry a sword at a ball?
Her expression was droll and sarcastic.
Yes, Link, of course I keep a full-size sword strapped to my garters under my skirt, as do most women. You've clearly never been fortunate enough to figure that out personally.
Goddess, what had happened to her today? What possessed her to say that? Link's mouth dropped open, and he started to laugh, the red that had started to fade immediately returning straight up his neck to the tips of his ears. Goddess above, they were both a mess.
Well, excuse me, Princess. I'm trying to teach you to fight for the first time, and you're just going to insult me?
I want a weapon.
It was a simple deflection, but, in fact, she was proud she'd managed to keep a straight face after her comment.
I was taught this silly self-defense stuff years ago.
With a sigh, Link walked toward the swords.
Okay. Silly defense stuff has already been learned. We can clearly just check that off the to-do list and move right along.
Zelda turned away so she could grin triumphantly to herself once he picked up 2 swords, assuming she'd won this spat. But that feeling vanished almost immediately. She felt his hand clasp over her mouth as he pulled her backwards. He had her trapped against him where he had complete control of every movement she made, to the point that there was a moment of genuine fear. Not of Link, of course, but at the fact that she'd lost control of herself so quickly. His leg swung around one of hers, and she lost use of it, Link's leg keeping hers entirely immobile. If she dared try anything, she'd simply go flying onto her face. She yelped into his palm and grabbed his arm, stumbling back into him without the balance of 2 legs, as she let out a muffled, frustrated shout of his name.
Princess.
She growled, but stopped fighting him, if only because once the surprise had worn off, she was left with annoyance. He kept his arm locked around her, but with her lack of struggle, he let his grip loosen a fair bit, his other hand lightly over her mouth, enough force to restrain her to make his point for training's sake, but never enough to hurt her. He left enough wiggle room for her to slip away, if she moved correctly, despite knowing he could probably keep her trapped indefinitely at this point.
Go ahead, Princess. You passed the self-defense lessons years ago. Use everything you've got to get away from me.
If Zelda had built up any self-confidence in the last few months of training with Link, it was gone in an instant. With every tug and pull and attempt to break free, his arms somehow managed to get tighter around her. And he wasn't even trying. He was not wiggling in a struggle to keep his feet, nor struggling to pull her backward and drag her away. She hadn't set him off balance. He was just there, holding her tightly, dodging her, staying balanced, everything. She could almost see the stupid self-satisfied grin on his face that she couldn't even make him budge. Her foot slammed down, aiming for his, but he moved his just out of the way, freeing her other leg. She tried to elbow him, but he twisted them both and managed to move himself further from her reach.
Give up?
He felt her huff into his palm as she tried to chastise him, only to let all the hot air out through her nose instead, fuming. Link let her go, earning an annoyed punch in his arm from Zelda as soon as he'd released her.
Absolutely stupid!
She grumbled at him, shaking her hand out, though from the way she shrank back, Link had a feeling she might have also been directing the words at herself as well.
Princess, the Yiga will either come up behind you and just kill you, or they'll try to drag you away or pin you down so they can finish the job. If they get you off your feet, you're dead. If you can't run, and you can't get free, and hells, if you can't call for us to help you while we're fighting the other Yiga, then you're as good as dead. And I'm sorry to be so frank, but it's the truth. I sprung that one on you to make a point, and I'm sorry if it was uncomfortable. But I know you want a sword, and that you want to stab things, but I can't stress their advanced skill enough to you. They are going to win. Giving you a sword accomplishes nothing at this point, except offering a weapon that they can take off of you to use. And that's not a slight against you. It's just a compliment to the enemy.
He could read that she'd already accepted what he was saying, but her face dropped into a pout anyway, and he did feel like he'd been a little too harsh with his bluntness. As much as a part of him wanted to tell her it would all be okay, the stronger part cared that she survived. That she would never go into a fight with a naive confidence that would get her killed because he had stroked her ego at the wrong time.
Do you want to move on? To train like this?
He gestured between her and himself.
With you springing yourself on me every few seconds?
Link shrugged innocently.
I can give you demonstrations on someone else if you prefer, but if you want to move on to some actual self-defense, we'll need to devise a system. If it's just us together, you're going to have to trust me for a lot of this training. No offense, but you'll be entirely at my mercy, Princess. So I completely understand if you want me to get someone else in to help.
Zelda scoffed because of the little smirk that teased the corner of his lips, but she also knew he was right. It was one thing to run laps, but it was another to essentially allow someone to restrain her in potentially deadly positions to ensure she knew how to get out of them. Her eyes darted to Link's for a brief moment before scowling at the grass.
No, this is fine. As much as I want to throttle you, especially right now, I do trust you.
That small smile became wider and more genuine.
Thanks.
He had breathed that appreciation out quickly, grabbing at the back of his neck, shifting from foot to foot.
Well, great. We'll start this tomorrow instead of today. I'd rather you be more mentally prepared.
Zelda gathered up her things, shoving them into her bag before heading back toward the courtyard, stopping only so she could turn to look back at Link.
Should I pray to the goddess for strength?
Pray for me, if anything. I have a terrible feeling you're going to want to beat me up for a while.
As if that feeling has ever gone away. Besides, isn't beating you up the goal?
Well, that's true. Good day and good night, Princess.
Same to you, Link.
She'd spent the rest of the day doing her normal tasks, using the end of her day for her own training, which now consisted of balancing on a wobbling plank, reminiscent of crossing the gap of the abandoned building. Link had told her it was core strength to keep herself balanced and upright, and though she had some training with that in terms of etiquette and posture, fatigue had her slumping, and she was determined to combat that with extra time training at night. It tired her out quickly, and she headed to sleep. The next morning, she headed back to the yard, set her things down, and stared. It wasn't Link waiting for her. It was Coyle.
Where is Link?
She couldn't locate him anywhere, no matter how much she looked around. She did see that there was a large training mat set up in the center of the yard, so, unsure of what to do, she headed for it. Following her, Coyle pushed his peppered gray hair from his face, glaring at the strands that reached his eyes.
He's unable to make it today. He told me that you normally start with several laps. Why don't you do that?
Is he all right?
She didn't want to sound overly concerned, but in their few months together, Link hadn't been so much as late, let alone missed a day. Even she'd canceled on him a few times. But she started her light jog, recognizing his absence beside her almost immediately. It was only then that she realized how much she enjoyed his presence.
He is.
That was all Coyle offered her.
Okay.
Trying to ignore the strange pit in her stomach, she tried to keep her eyes ahead of her, and then she felt it. Someone crashed into her, and she yelped as they pinned her arms at her side and pulled her backwards until her feet were lifted off the ground.
Morning, Princess.
And to think I nearly missed you!
Frustrated, she kicked around as if she were swimming, trying to get out of his arms. He was bringing her toward the mat with a disheartening amount of ease.
Are you just going to flail like a worm, or are you going to actually try to escape?
Is this the only way you can sweep me off my feet?
She elbowed him, and Link laughed, but he didn't loosen his hold on her or lower her to the ground as he stepped up onto the large mat.
Would you try to talk the Yiga to death?
Only if it works on you first.
She found herself on her back on the mat, not in pain since it cushioned her fall, but surprised nonetheless. Link was careful never to sincerely hurt her or put her in danger, but a little jolt of shock with her back hitting the mat helped her realize her predicament much quicker than if he'd carefully placed her down. He bent over her, his knee against her stomach to keep her down, and pulled a hidden knife from his boot.
Now that you're on the ground, I can kill you so much easier.
She narrowed her eyes at him.
You're such a child, pouncing from the shadows.
Link replaced the knife and helped pull Zelda up to her feet. Her eyes glowered at him as she stalked away.
No, come back.
He chuckled, wiggling his fingers until she acquiesced.
We're going to be getting really close with each other today, Princess. Once you figure out how to get me off your back literally and figuratively, I suppose we can move on. This whole exercise involves you attempting to beat me up, which I'm sure you're looking forward to given all this tension I'm getting from you.
Excuse me? Tension? What tension are you referring to?
Zelda's voice had become squeaky, her mouth dropping and her face pinkening up.
The tension between you and I, Princess.
He snickered, enjoying the look on her face too much.
We don't have the best track record of getting along, and given that this is our first day getting physical, I thought it would be best if Coyle were here as well.
As a chaperone? Are you out of your mind? What in Hyrule makes you think we'd need one? And I beg your pardon, Link, but I don't like your choice of words.
This time, Coyle couldn't hide his own amusement either, coughing into his fist to try to cover it up. Link, however, had lost an alarming amount of propriety around her, and he barked out a laugh.
No, not as a chaperone. We're not going on a stroll through the Rose Gardens together. And if we were to get physical in the sense you're implying, I certainly wouldn't bring a chaperone.
Zelda's mouth dropped as she attempted to stutter out a
Why
few
would
words,
you?
but Link just kept going.
We're training. I thought it would be good to have someone here to observe since we'll be a bit close together, and it'll be harder for me to judge.
Her mouth opened and closed like a fish, unable to form words. Had he truly just said that to her? So she did the next best thing, put on her haughty face and crossed her arms in subtle defiance.
You've officially lost your mind.
Watch.
He wrapped his arms around her and tucked her back against his chest. Unlike when he sprang out at her, he was slow and gentle. She knew exactly what he was going to do before he could fully do it, giving her all the time in the world to voice her discomfort with something. His grip tightened to make his point that this was just a constraining position, not a fluffy hug she could push him away from, and just like that, she lost the use of her arms with the roll of her eyes, despite her trying to spread her arms away. Link bit back a smile.
You don't like being in this position, right?
Of course not.
Even if his arms were a bit warm, and goddess he smelled good today. If she could just tilt her head, she could see his piercing blue eyes a bit better, and no. Thankfully, Link seemed oblivious to her inner torment.
Right now, I'm in total control, and goddess above, I know you hate that.
He wrenched her body to the side, and she stumbled while he demonstrated just how many ways he could control her, move her, including getting her back onto the ground. He quickly pulled a different knife from his back pocket and firmly pressed his hand down on her chest so she couldn't sit up, letting the knife hover over her throat so she could see just how easy it was for him to transition from one move to the other with little resistance from her. She sobered a little more after that, attentive and serious, remembering that Link's speed was part of what made him as deadly as the Yiga.
You need to take your control back from them. We're talking about Yiga here, because it's unlikely that a Lizalfos will attack you this way. If we were concerned with Lizalfos, I'd have given you a knife on day one. But they're not the immediate threat. The Yiga are.
He helped her up again and gestured for her to return to her position in his arms, which she reluctantly did.
There are other ways they can grab you, but they're going to want to keep your arms pinned. They could pull you by the hair or the shoulders, maybe the wrist, maybe push you or choke you, but all of those leave your hands free, right? So that's why we're doing this specific hold over and over first, one where you're restricted.
What if they toss me over their shoulder?
Link let her go and raised an eyebrow.
Are you asking for a demonstration?
No! I just mean, how would I get out of that?
One thing at a time, princess.
Zelda didn't miss the subtle way his hand slid down her arms a bit gratuitously, or was that just her imagination? She bit her lip so there was something else to focus on.
Okay, so the reason I brought Coyle specifically is that your attackers are more likely to be muscular, and most definitely taller than me. In other words, exactly like Coyle. There are other body types, of course, but we're going to train first for the physically strongest. The worst you'll face, essentially. And you know the Yiga. They worship the one male Gerudo king. They're predominantly male followers. Again, like I said, you'll definitely face female Yiga, but we want to assume the worst right now. So we're not going to match your body type.
He swallowed noticeably and turned to Coyle.
What I mean is that you're...
He fumbled for a polite way of phrasing his words, earning an annoyed sound from Zelda.
Still in the process of becoming fit enough to even fight someone of equal stature off of you.
Weak. That's what Zelda knew he was trying to say, but Link would never be so blunt. He'd give her a compliment about how much stronger she'd gotten since they'd been working together, but it would be paired with a reminder that Yiga are stronger. Link cleanly transitioned a bit more politely, though his ears began to change to a soft pink color that caught Zelda's eye as he spoke.
Essentially, you're an untrained new recruit. You haven't been doing strength training as long as they have, and they're not going to send any of their new untrained people in to kill you.
He pulled her back into his arms, almost like a reminder that he could carry on a whole conversation and still keep her from breaking free.
So let's get serious. What do you know about them? You like analyzing things.
Zelda rolled her eyes and leaned back into Link, almost too comfortable. She wasn't even really struggling.
That they're stubborn. They make for rude and impatient teachers. They think they're the best swordsmen.
He leaned his chin casually against her shoulder, far too intimately for Zelda not to shiver at his breath on her neck.
Well, I'll pretend those weren't all aimed at me.
Oh, never, Link.
She cooed that sarcastically, but the smirk on both their faces let them know that there was no real animosity between them, not like there had been before. And goddess, she was not put off at all by his all-too-familiar gesture that left her turning her head to see him and had their faces much too close for comfort. There was a beat, a single moment of perfect stillness where Zelda couldn't bring herself to do anything but stare at Link, trapped in a vortex and resigned to her fate. She couldn't even breathe. And then the moment was over, and just like that, Link moved his chin off her and stood straight into a more professional posture.
Coyle and I will swap off so you get a sense of at least two different fighting styles. Whoever is in the role of the Yiga will walk you through how to break free, okay?
Since you're still holding me, I assume you're going first?
He didn't have a good angle on Zelda anymore, but even from where he was, he could see her cheeks redden. Glad she had no way to see his do the same.
No, Coyle is going to be your captor while I explain what to do. I'm afraid of you.
She made a face that he couldn't see, but he could feel it. He slid his arms away from her, again, that gratuitous slide that she definitely didn't imagine this time. Did he even know he was doing it?
Wait. If you're not doing this, why have you been holding me like that then?
Why not?
He chuckled and walked around the front of her, winking with a playful grin on his face that had Zelda equally flushed, flustered, and amused. Goddess, if they ever found a balance between them, a place where humor and jokes met flirting and training, and even a little bit of that tension, Zelda knew she was doomed.
Arms up!
Link's voice was loud and annoying as usual. For a week now, this was all Zelda had heard from him.
What do you think I'm doing?
Without thinking, she turned her head towards him, and at that moment, she felt Coyle collide with her, protectively cradling her head in his arms with momentum from his near hit before letting her go.
Princess, you can't take your eyes off your opponent. I could have really hit you just now.
Glaring at Link for his distraction, she apologized to Coyle before returning to her defensive stance they'd taught her. Knees bent for balance, staying on the balls of her feet to move quickly, and hands up to protect her face. After several days of elbowing them both in the gut, and after one particularly satisfying hard knee aimed at Link, she'd been allowed to change it up so nothing felt stagnant, trying to dodge and deflect from the front this time, rather than escaping a grab from behind. She missed again, moving the wrong way at Coyle's feint. He was restraining himself enough to safely avoid touching her if she moved incorrectly.
Princess.
Link wasn't losing his patience per se, but also not grasping why she couldn't understand this after they'd both showed her several times. She let out an annoyed grunt before storming away from Coyle and Link, throwing her hands into the air in frustration.
Goddess Link, I know!
This looks like it's going well.
King Rome had appeared, stepping into the training yard with several of his guards behind him. Link and Coyle dropped to their knees, but Zelda huffed and crossed her arms.
I warned you I wasn't built to fight, Father!
Rome nodded pacifyingly before turning to Link.
Is she progressing? Or no?
Link's eyes darted up to hers before returning his gaze to the ground.
She is, sire. Significant strides.
Liar!
She hadn't meant to call that so aggressively, but the stress of the day was building up and starting to boil over.
You say that every single time! Maybe try some honesty for once! I'm not doing well. I'm failing every time we try something practical. I've managed to escape from that stupid hold you do one time, and that was because you were talking. I have no powers, no weapons to defend myself, no physical prowess to survive an attack. I'm not strong enough to fight the both of you, and I'm still just this helpless, useless, walking disaster. Just drop me off in one of the springs, and I'll sit there until the calamity arrives, or my powers show up. Whatever happens first.
You're too hard on yourself, Princess.
Link rested his arms on his leg as he stared straight at her.
We've had this discussion. You're not failing. You're trying to learn something in a few months that takes others a lifetime to learn.
I almost got punched just now.
In a moment of forgetting decorum entirely, Link pushed himself off his knee, blind to the king's presence, as he strode over to Zelda instead.
If Coyle and I sparred right now, I'd be punched. He would too. We'd come back bleeding. That doesn't mean we're bad at fighting just because we took a hit. I've said it to you before. Better a broken nose than dead.
Well, I'm afraid. I don't want to get punched.
Find me a fool who does.
Maybe you should just get it over with, and I should just get hit so I'll stop being afraid. Maybe that's what needs to happen. I need to get hurt in order for something to trigger in my useless body.
Link grabbed her arm, jostling her slightly, like he was trying to shake sense into her.
If you stop being afraid of pain, then you'll get yourself killed. Pain and fear are both ways of teaching yourself to survive. They're good things, if you don't let them control you.
You're not afraid of pain, so don't even try to make such a stupid point, Link.
Rolling his eyes, Link let go of her a little forcefully and turned over to Coyle, who was still properly bowing on his knee, as Link should have been. Then, he stopped and bent at the waist in front of the king.
Forgive me, Majesty. I didn't mean to...
No, you do whatever you're doing. I'm not even here.
Link skulked back towards Zelda, taking those words to heart.
They want you dead. We want you to live. Why don't you understand that? We aren't going to let you die, Princess. We are going to fight until our last breath to keep you from being harmed. We'll act fast, but we're fallible. And that's why you need to be prepared, because we aren't perfect. No one is.
I'm not fast enough to react to an attack.
Not yet, no.
Again, forgetting the presence of the king entirely, Link grabbed Zelda's arms, too close in her space. Too familiar after several days numbing themselves to the awkwardness of proximity these lessons brought with them.
You're a fast runner, though.
Oh, that again?
Frustrated, she pulled her arms away and began to huff away from him and the king.
I can't run forever.
Link jogged after her as she stormed away.
You don't need to run forever. You just need to run until you're safe.
What even constitutes safety at this point?
If I'm with you, if Coyle is, if you're surrounded by the guards who've already pledged to die for you, if you're hidden, if you're here, you know safety when you find it, Princess. There's a reason the Yiga don't dare try to attack you here. Would you feel safe right now if you were attacked?
She wanted to say no, just to spite him, but her voice caught. She was surrounded by all of her father's guards, her two at the gate, Link as her ever-present instructor, and Coyle. Not a small run away were the barracks, where almost every soldier stationed in Hyrule Castle lived. Even if she were in her rooms, the Sheikah had warded her room with runes. They were only effective in a small area, so the guards were in her hallway. No matter where she went here, she did feel safe. She opted for silence rather than agreeing with Link. He nodded.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
King Rome cleared his throat and shifted from foot to foot.
You know what? I'm going to borrow Coyle for a moment.
Neither of them seemed to hear him as Rome walked away with the knight, asking if this was normal for them before Coyle's laughter faded with distance. Zelda's eyes focused on a bruise on his jaw that she hadn't noticed earlier. She crossed her arms.
I'm just frustrated. I don't actually want to get punched.
Link chuckled and gave her shoulder an affectionate tap.
Yes, Princess, I did figure that one out.
She was silent for a few passing heartbeats before it became unbearable.
Okay, fine. What will be the next thing we're learning?
Always so eager. We're done for today. The next thing is going to have to be a surprise.
I don't like being patient or surprised.
She huffed and grabbed her book and water off the ground.
I know you don't.
He smiled, and Zelda felt her heart melt. Just a little, because he had one of the most captivating smiles when he made use of it. But Zelda wasn't a fan of melting away, so she refused to let it get to her as much as possible.
Can't escape from Link's balls. Fight! Yep, 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 yep. Yep, 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 yep. Yep, 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 yep. Yeah.